and the group who are about to join. Prabhuji, we are reading the Srimad Bhagavatam. We are on Canto 1, Chapter 17. Chapter 17 is the punishment and reward of Kali. In the text for today, Prabhuji, we have 10 to 14, but the purport of text 10 and 11 is quite big. So we can do as much as we can, and then we can continue tomorrow. So Prabhuji, should we, how would you like us to do? Read the Sanskrit translation and then purport?
Yeah, and then we'll read one purport and discuss it at a time.
Yes, okay.
Is that all right?
Yes, that's fine. So I can start with the Sanskrit. Canto 1, Chapter 17, text 10 and 11. Yasya raste prajas sarvas trasyante sadviya shabhuti tasya matasya nasyati kitir ayurbhavo gati esha rajnam paro dharma hiyarthanam ati nigraha ata enam vadishyami bhutadruham ashtamam. Translation and purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki Jai. Translation. O chaste one, the king's good name, duration of life, and good rebirth vanish when all kinds of living beings are terrified by miscreants in his kingdom. It is certainly the prime duty of the king to subdue first the sufferings of those who suffer. Therefore, I must kill this most wretched man because he is violent against other living beings. Purport. Should I read one paragraph and we discuss, or should I read the whole purport?
The whole purport, please.
Okay. Purport. When there is some disturbance caused by wild animals in the village or town, the police or other take action to kill them. Similarly, it is the duty of the government to kill at once all bad societal elements, such as thieves, dacoits, and murderers. The same punishment is also due to animal killers, because the animals of the state are also the praja. Praja means one who has taken birth in the state, and that includes both men and animals. Any living beings who take birth in the state has the primary right to live under the protection of the king. The jungle animals are also subject to the king, and they also have a right to live. So what to speak of domestic animals like the cows and bulls? Any living beings, if he terrifies other living beings, is a most wretched subject, and the king should at once kill such a disturbing element. As the wild animal is killed when it creates disturbances, similarly, any man who unnecessarily kings or terrifies the jungle animals or other animals must be punished at once. By the law of Supreme Lord, all living beings, in whatever shape they may be, are the sons of the Lord, and no one has any right to kill other animals unless it is so ordered by the codes of natural law. The tiger can kill a lower animal for its subsistence, but a man cannot kill an animal for his subsistence. That is the law of God, who has created the law that a living being subsists by eating another living being. Thus, the vegetarians are also living by eating other living beings. Therefore, the law is that one should live only by eating specific living beings as ordained by the law of God. The Ishopanishad directs that one should live by the direction of the Lord and not at one's sweet will. A man can subsist on varieties of grains, fruits, and milk ordained by the Lord, and there is no need of animal foods, save and except in particular cases. The illusioned king or executive head even though sometimes advertised as a great philosopher and learned scholar, will allow slaughterhouses in the state without knowing that torturing poor animals clear the way to hell for such foolish kings or executive heads. The executive head must always be alert to the safety of the prajas, both man and animal, and inquire whether a particular living being is harassed at any place by another living being. The harassing living being must at once be caught and put to death, as shown by Maharaj Parikshit. The people's government or government by the people should not allow killing of innocent animals by the sweet will of foolish government men. They must know the code of God as mentioned in the revealed scriptures. Maharaj Parikshit quotes here that according to the codes of God, the irresponsible king or state execute jeopardizes his good name, duration of his life, power, and strength, and ultimately his progressive march towards better life and salvation after death. Such foolish men do not even believe in the existence of next life. While commenting on this particular verse, we have in our presence the statement of great modern politician who have recently died and left his will, which discloses his poor fund of knowledge of the codes of God mentioned by Maharaj Parikshit. The politician was so ignorant of the code of gods that he writes, I do not believe in any such ceremonies, and to submit to them, even as a matter of form, would be hypocrisy and an attempt to delude ourselves and others. I have no religious sentiments in that matter. Contrasting these statements of great politicians in the modern age with those of Maharaj Parikshit, we find a vast difference. Maharaj Parikshit was pious according to the scriptural codes, whereas the modern politician goes by his personal beliefs and sentiments. Any great man of the material world is, after all, a conditioned soul. He is bound by his hands and feet by the ropes of material nature, and still the foolish conditioned soul thinks of himself as free to act by his whimsical sentiments. The conclusion is that people in the time of Maharaj Parikshit were happy and the animals were given proper protection because the executive head was not whimsical or ignorant of God's law. Foolish, faithless creatures try to avoid the existence of the Lord and proclaim themselves secular at the cost of valuable human life. The human life is especially meant for knowing the science of God, but foolish creatures, especially in this age of Kali, instead of knowing God scientifically, many propaganda against religious beliefs as well as the existence of God, even though they are always bound by the laws of God, by the symptoms of birth, death, old age, and disease. Hare Krishna. Over to you, Prabhuji.
Thank you so much. That was a long purport.
Yes, Prabhuji, it was.
So we're continuing our study, our hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 17, which is entitled The Punishment and Reward of Kali. And the bull Dharma is continuing to speak with Mother Cow, Bull Mata, who is suffering because of being mistreated. And in this purport, or in this verse, Dharma, the bull, is making the point that anyone who hurts or harasses innocent creatures deserves to be killed or punished by the king, by the leaders. And Srila Prabhupada discusses in the purport 3 or 4 main points, discussing how this is true. It is the duty of the king, of the leaders, to protect the citizens, to make sure they're not harassed or hurt. and not only human, but the animals in the kingdom as well. But unfortunately, in this age of Kali, where people are not having good character, and not having religious, spiritual understanding, they're not in the mode of goodness. They're acting more selfishly in terms of the temporary gain and profit for this temporary body, other people's bodies, political positions, money, fame, acting out of greed. And so they make wrong choices and do wrong things, violent things. Srila Prabhupada says the illusion king or executive head, even though sometimes advertised as a great philosopher and learned scholar, will allow slaughterhouses, which clears the way to hell for such a foolish king or executive head. The executive head must always be alert to the safety of the prajas, both man and animal. And this is according to the laws of God. And Maharaj Pariksit is a devotee, and he's living his life according to the directions of Krishna and the direction of Krishna's servants. And Srila Prabhupada goes on to say that at the time of writing this, he's aware of a statement of a great modern politician who did not even want a religious funeral because he so much thought it was nonsense. The man said, I have no religious sentiment. The Maharaj Pariksit was just the opposite. As Srila Prabhupada says, any great man in the material world is, after all, a conditioned soul. He is bound by his hands and feet by the ropes of material nature, and still the foolish conditioned soul thinks of himself as free to act. So if we feel, just like young children, or even adults, if they think there is no one watching them do what they do, then they may choose to do some mischief, some wrong thing, because who's going to know? Whether it's a small thing or a big thing, who's going to know? So if you have someone who has, it's like a child, they want some biscuits and they really want the biscuits, and the mother is sleeping, maybe she won't know. Who's going to see? Let me steal the biscuits. So thinks of himself as free to act by whimsical sentiments. Whereas the fact actually is that our actions are being recorded at every second. There is a higher witness, super soul. Lord Vishnu is aware. And although we cannot see Lord Vishnu with our eyes, our flesh eyes, nevertheless, the recording is going on. Sometimes people go into stores, they don't know that there's a remote camera which is recording. Still, the camera is recording. It doesn't matter whether you know it or not. So someone may say, well, that's your faith. And we say, yes, it is our faith. We do have confidence in it. You're exactly correct. But there's also some logical thinking. We see in this world, generally, we enjoy the results of our activities. In a business, in a company, the manager, supervisor is aware of what we're doing, and we get a promotion, or we may get fired because of our activity. In different places, the government or the police are monitoring our activities. And if we make some mistake, then we can be penalized. And why is it? We see, if we go to any market, any outdoor vegetable, fruit market, some selling bazaar. So there's so many stalls, and many people are selling the same thing. 3 or 4 people are selling the same fruit, they're selling the same dresses, the same clothes. But one of them becomes very successful, and maybe another one does not become successful. So why is that? Why is it that a doctor may have basically 2 equally ill patients with severe case of malaria? They have the same medicine, the same treatment, but one of them dies. Why? So another example that's given is that sometimes people are lost out in the ocean on a boat. They lose the power of the engine or the sail, and they're stuck out there all alone for some days or weeks, and then they're saved. And then someone else dies. So why? What is the difference? So some people say, well, it's just chance. That just by chance or luck, that vegetable walla in the market, somehow they get business by luck and the other person does not. But we don't agree. We don't agree. We take wisdom from learned spiritual authorities, ultimately from the scripture, which explains to us in a common sense way that everyone has a credit account, just like there's credit cards. So there's different amounts of credit. Someone has 500 pounds, someone 2,000 pounds, someone 10,000 pounds credit to spend with that credit card. So according to our past activities, we all have different credit. We may want a lot of money, but if we do not have the credit for it, it doesn't matter how hard we work. It won't happen. And then again, there's people, they say, who have a golden thumb. They practically do anything immediately or easily. Their business grows and so much money comes, they get promotions. Or there's people, how many people try to get into the acting business, actresses, actors? Most of them don't go anywhere. They don't go very far, but there's a few who become stars, celebrities, famous. So many musicians. There are hundreds of bands, hundreds of single musicians who have done 1 song or 2 songs, and that's it. Never again. They just go away. And then there are musicians that produce album after album, and they're present for many, many years, even decades. So all these different people may have the same desire and may be making the same correct efforts. So why is it that everyone doesn't become well? Everyone doesn't become rich, become famous, doesn't have has a very good marriage, despite the best efforts. So something is blocking. So we don't have to call it God. We could just call it destiny. We can call it we can use whatever word we want, but we are not free to have whatever we want, whenever we want it. There is something beyond our control. And whatever the word is that our mind is comfortable with, it's something beyond our control. So we, as devotees, understand that this is Krishna. This is the supreme personality of God's head's arrangement, that there is this system of karma. We perform good actions, bad actions. We have our desires. We make effort within this material world. And the system is that we will get as much as we deserve. And according to how hard we work and the strength of our desire. So this is the Vedic understanding. But these atheist means thinking that there is no one watching, no one in control, that there's no system, everything is happening by chance. If everything is happening by chance, then why see a counselor at the university about the best course of study? Why see 2 or 3 doctors for the best course of action? It's not going to make any difference. It's a matter of chance, right? Just find some doctor, get treatment, and if it's your luck, you'll get well. But we see people don't do that, do they? People don't leave important things to luck. Although these people may use their mouth and they may say, well, I just think it's chance. Then just get in your car, don't look at a map, and just drive. And then if you're lucky, you'll end up where you want to be or where you're supposed to be, right? So they don't even live according to their own philosophy. It's a very important point. If anyone ever starts telling you, well, it's all by chance. Okay, if it's all by chance, put a blindfold around your eyes and start driving. And if it's luck and it's your by chance, you'll not get in an accident. But it's ridiculous. Everyone tries very hard to use their intelligence and plan things for the best results. But it's just all nonsense. All just and then on the other side, why other people, why don't we catch this? Why do not more people speak out? Well, you're saying it's by chance, but you don't live by chance. You don't go to college and, well, I'll just put my finger on this, on the syllabus of the college, and I'll take this course, that course, this course. I'll be a doctor. No one does that. And especially go into master's degree, PhD, you have counselors, you have advisors, and you have to ask them that, how exactly can I succeed? No one does it by chance. So they don't even live their own talk. Idiots, forgive me, just idiotic thinking. It's just silly. Really. I remember myself a long time ago. So I was at a Sunday feast. I think I shared this. So someone came in and they said, well, it's all one. You're me and I'm you, and we're all the same. I said, oh, let me have your car keys and your wallet, please. And that ended that conversation very quickly. Because we're not all one. We're not all the same. Absolutely. This person was just talking some things that it wasn't thinking, they weren't thinking about what they were saying. So this is the material world, and we have to be very careful, because people with a tongue, because we have a tongue, we can say anything. They're just like you have, what do they call it? Con men or con women. And they say anything. Sometimes they rent an expensive vehicle, and they rent a fancy watch, and they dress in a big suit. So they look rich and they say a lot of things, and you give me your money, I'll give you good return. So they're just saying things. So fortunately or unfortunately, we humans, we can say any damn thing, whatever suits our purpose. We know. Sometimes we have a tendency to do it. Children have a tendency to just say anything. Didn't you ask your father about that? Yeah, I think you said it was all right. I can have 3 more biscuits. Because they're influenced by their desire. So here, Srila Prabhupada is pointing out that the leaders, if they're ignorant and they're too much overcome by their materialistic desires, then they often end up causing pain and suffering to others. So it's just horrible. And the solution is Krishna consciousness, is living according to religious principles that will elevate us, that will elevate our character. So everything depends upon our character, doesn't it? If someone has good character, then they will more often make the right decisions, even if it's not pleasant. And someone with low character, they will do anything just to keep things nice for themselves or their idea of themselves. The Maharaj Parikshit was just the opposite and was very strongly protecting the citizen. See what else? I think there was something near the end of the purport. The human life is especially meant for knowing the science of God, but foolish creatures, especially in the age of Kali, instead of knowing God scientifically, make propaganda against religious beliefs. Any discussion or comments about this? About the leader's duty and how animals should be protected as much as humans are protected? Animals are not meant to be our food. We're meant to take care of them.
Prabhuji, that concept is totally lost when our leaders are killing animals as well. I mean, sometimes they kill it for game or sport as well, not only for food. So
For what? For what reason?
for gaming purpose. So they kill it just to kill them because they want a medal or they want to keep
a trophy.
trophy.
I shot the biggest water buffalo. Yeah, that's so inconsiderate and insensitive, of course, and heartless. So heartless. Even if there's no God, why would you want to cause that kind of pain just so you can get a piece of metal to put on the wall of your house? That's not very nice. Forget about God. Very bad behavior. And then if you have such men and occasionally women running around, then they're making other hard-hearted decisions. As someone will say, well, this is we're being men, we're manly. No, you're being barbarian. That's barbarian. That's Neanderthal. Not manly. It's a brute.
Yes, Prabhuji. Arya Govind Prabhuji and Panchali Mataji has something to say. Arya Govind Prabhu, kindly go in first.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, earlier kings used to go for hunting in the forest, and then they used to practice hunting. Was it part of the Vedic culture, Prabhuji?
Yeah, and the animals would be eaten in after proper religious ceremony by those who, according to religion, were allowed to do so. Yeah, of course, Vaishnavas, devotees of Krishna, would not be eating. There are different sections of society.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Panchali Mataji, kindly unmute and ask your question.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, just on the fact of animal killing. So there are lots of people who actually sacrifice animals, even in Kali Yuga, and they do it in the name of rituals in order to please demigods. But clearly they're not doing the right thing. And sometimes, earlier I never used to understand, but after coming into Krishna consciousness, I now understand that many a times, if not most of the times, it is basically them wanting to eat the animal, and then just to make things look better for them, they offer it to the gods, and then they have it as prasada, which is even worse, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's said in this age of Kali, there is there's no sacrifice allowed except for the Harinam Sankirtan sacrifice. There's no one that can perform those rituals properly.
Yeah.
you may have heard that the prayer, I think before Goddess Durga, when they kill a goat, it's
Yeah.
supposed to be that just as I'm killing you, you're going to kill me in my next life.
Mm.
So hopefully they can get a grip of themselves and stop that.
Yeah. I mean, Prabhuji, I mean, the reason, I mean, you mentioned Durga Puja, and because my background is Bengali, so my family, they're all, you know, my relatives still in Calcutta. So if I go, when we go to during Durga Puja, sometimes it runs over 4 days. And one of the days, as it is very common over there in the city, you just have to have meat. It's just part of the culture, and every Bengali family, they just do it. I mean, it's
Yeah, it's
just a bit
pervasive.
disgusting. Yeah. And if you don't do it, you're an outcast because you're not following the celebrations. So it's just
Yeah.
very odd.
Yes, it is. You know, in the Bhagavad Gita, there's that verse where Lord Krishna says that for those who are in ignorance, darkness is light and light is darkness.
Yeah.
Can't distinguish between good and bad. And it's an inherited ignorance that just goes on through the family. And another kind of inherited ignorance, of course, is prejudice, bigotry, where we don't like those people. Well, why not? Well, they're bad people. And that's it. It just goes down to the child, to the next one.
Hmm.
So it's just unfortunate. So the culture is helpful, obviously, but not if it's grounded in ignorance. And so it takes some strength. You know, sometimes we talk to people and they'll say, just like you did, I'll be an outcast. Well, you have to somehow, if you understand the wrong in it, you just have to get the mental strength somehow, the emotional strength to do something different. They're doing what they want to do. They're making choices. Well, you can too. How come they can do what they want and you can't? I mean, if they tell you, well, you have to be like us. Well, I do. In the same way you're making a choice to live your life in a certain way, I also want to do that too. But you know, it's hard. It's certainly a hard thing to do. Yeah, you need to make other friends, which is what we talk about from time to time. That patosime sakha cheti, that these heartfelt relationships, they're very, very powerful. So it's so important to have affectionate, good relationships, friendly relationships with wise spiritual devotees, so you can feel connected and exchange loving relationships. Therefore, in the Nectar of Instruction, that Upadeshamrita, I think it's the second verse, or maybe the third, it talks about the 6 kinds of activities that are favorable for bhakti, and we must do them, or we won't have as much strength relating with other devotees, where we give other devotees or devotee gifts or food, and they give to us. We ask them questions. We reveal our heart. What's the other one? Reveal our mind in confidence, exchange gifts. There's another one. There's 6 types of exchanges between, reveal our mind and inquire confidentially. So these relationships are there's only 11 verses in that Upadeshamrita, but each and every one of those verses are necessary, the instructions, so that we can become successful. And actually, it's only the first 8. The last 3 relate to very advanced, pure devotional service. So if someone says, oh, I wish I could be stronger in bhakti, or if we think, oh, well, how could I get more strength? Read that Upadeshamrita and actually really follow. Just do it. Srila Prabhupada gives a kind of blessing in the very beginning. He says that if you follow these instructions carefully, you'll be completely successful. it's hard. Thank you for that nice comment.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare
Anything else before we go to the next verse? Maybe someone else could read the Sanskrit and purport and take turns. It's a short purport.
Hari Govind Prabhu, Hare Krishna, would you like to read the next shlok and translation and purport?
Yes, Mataji. What's number, Mataji?
12. 117:12.
Okay, Mataji. Yes. Ko vrishchat tava padam strin saurabhyeya chatushpada ma bhuvams twadrisha rastre rajnan krishnanu vartinam. Translation. He, Maharaja Parikshit, repeatedly addressed and questioned the bull thus, O son of Surabhi, who has cut off your 3 legs? In the state of the kings who are obedient to the laws of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, there is no one as unhappy as you. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. The kings.
Ija.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, kindly continue. Prabhuji was just saying Jai.
Oh, okay, sorry. The kings or the executive heads of all states must know the codes of Lord Krishna, generally Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and must act accordingly in order to fulfill the mission of human life, which is to make an end to all miseries of material conditions. One who knows the codes of Lord Krishna can achieve this end without any difficulty. In the Bhagavad Gita, in a synopsis, we can understand the codes of Godhead. And in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the same orders, the same codes are explained further. In a state where the codes of Krishna are followed, no one is unhappy. Where such codes are not followed, the first sign is that 3 legs of the representative of religion are cut off, and thereby all miseries follow. When Krishna was personally present, the codes of Krishna were being followed without question. But in his absence, such codes are presented in the pages of Srimad Bhagavatam for the guidance of the blind persons who happen to be at the helm of all affairs. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Does anyone have any questions or comments about that? Otherwise, we can go to 13.
No questions, Prabhuji. We can go on to 13 because I think we've mentioned this in the previous text. Do we have a volunteer for the next text? Text 13.
Yes, Mataji, I can read. Hare Krishna. So apologies again for my pronunciation. Akyayi Fresha Patram Vaha Sadhunam Akrita Kasam Atma Vairupya Kartaram Parthanam Kirti Dushanam. Translation by Srila Prabhupada, Prabhupada Ki Jai. O bull, you are offenseless and thoroughly honest. Therefore, I wish all good of you. Please tell me of the perpetrator of these mutilations, which blacken the reputation of the sons of Krita. Purport. The reputation of the reign of Maharaja Ramachandra and that of the kings who followed in the footsteps of Maharaja Ramachandra, like the Pandavas and their descendants, are never to be forgotten, because in their kingdom, offenseless and honest living beings were never in trouble. The bull and the cow are the symbols of the most defenseless living beings, because even the stool and urine of these animals are utilized to benefit human society. The descendants of the sons of Prita, like Maharaja Parikshit, were afraid of losing their reputations. But in the modern days, the leaders are not even afraid of killing such offenseless animals. Herein lies the difference between the reign of those pious kings and the modern states ruled by irresponsible executive heads without knowledge of the codes of God. Hare Krishna.
So one thing that I notice here that we can reflect upon, this word offenseless, that the bull and the cow don't deserve that sort of treatment, especially because they offer so much benefit to human society. What a horrible thing to not only not be grateful, but to kill and cause pain to someone or something which gives you so much benefit. Another indication of hard-heartedness and insensitivity. Very bad character. In the when the gopis met Lord Krishna for the rasa dance, so they asked Lord Krishna about the three kinds of love, and Lord Krishna replied that one kind of love is someone who loves you only if you do something for them. Then they love you. It's almost like a business relationship. If you don't do what makes them happy, they won't love you anymore, or not as much. So that's something that's well known. I love you, and then if you don't do something, then they don't love you. So this is like business. And then the second kind of love is close to pure love. One of the best examples is of parents who just love their children. And even the children may do very hurtful things, they still feel love for them. So this is in the direction of pure love. And then the third are those who, even if you do something for them and you work very hard and you provide for them, 100 people would say, oh, you really care for them. But somehow this person is hard-hearted. They're ungrateful. They're not very, if they do, they don't say their thank you very often. They don't reciprocate. They don't seem to feel your love for them, your giving. Ungrateful. Specifically one who receives benefits from someone else and doesn't feel grateful. It's called, and with respect to the father or the spiritual master, this is called Guru Druha. And it is a very low-class kind of character. And unfortunately, even I can see that in the past 30 or 40 years, there's much more of this. I'm not sure why. But you see with people in general and with young adults, very often they feel entitled. I don't have to say thank you. You're my father, you're my mother, you're supposed to do it. Generally, even a decent person, if you're in a restaurant, you say thank you to the waiter. Oh, thank you very much. So this ungratefulness is a symptom of hard-hearted. And so with respect to the cow and the bull, who are able to provide so much benefit to us, people say, well, how come in India there is so much, there is such a high degree of respect for the cow by many people, by the culture? for very good reason, because the cow gives milk and you get so many benefits. And not only the milk, but here, Srila Prabhupada points out the urine and the stool of the cow, especially the cows who are eating pure grass, not commercial chemical food, but pure grass. They provide so much benefit. And then after they die a natural death, their hide can be used for leather and for shoes, different useful things. So ungratefulness and offenseless. So we know, even in ordinary human society, it's one thing for a man to get in a fight with another man and beat him. It's another thing to physically abuse a child or even a baby. And according to how offenseless, how dependent, how unable to protect themselves, there's a stronger penalty by the court. Yeah. So therefore, because the animals, most of them, almost all of them, can't protect themselves against humans, it is a great offense for us, especially if it's not a situation of self-defense, to hurt them or to kill them. And there is definitely universal penalties. Any other questions or comments about text 13? Otherwise, we can go to 14.
If there are no questions, we can go on to text 14. Would anybody
Okay,
like?
I'll do that if it's
Okay.
unless someone else wants to
Yes,
do
yes.
it.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Jane Nagas Sugam Yunjan, Karvato Astuchad Mad Bayam. Sadhunam Badram Eva Shad, Asadu Damane Krite. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Whoever causes offenseless living beings to suffer must fear me anywhere and everywhere in the world. By curbing dishonest miscreants, one automatically benefits the offenseless. Purport. Dishonest miscreants flourish because of cowardly and impotent executive heads of state. But when the executive heads are strong enough to curb all sorts of dishonest miscreants in any part of the state, certainly they cannot flourish. When the miscreants are punished in an exemplary manner, automatically all good fortune follows. As said before, it is the prime duty of the king or the executive head to give protection in all respects to the peaceful, offenseless citizens of the state. The devotees of the Lord are by nature peaceful and offenseless, and therefore it is the prime duty of the state to arrange to convert everyone to become a devotee of the Lord. Thus, automatically, all the citizens will be peaceful and offenseless. Then the only duty of the king will be to curb the dishonest miscreants. That will bring about peace and harmony all over human society. So here we're really speaking about, and we see examples of this, a theocracy, which some people don't like the idea of a theocracy. And we can understand perhaps for good reason, because some theocracies on this planet, they seem to be abusive and have ignorance. Srila Prabhupada begins about how the executive head should be very strong. It's like the example is often given, not that it's perfect, but just as an example of this, even now. And certainly years ago in the Arabian countries, in the Middle East, thieves have their hands cut off, and they don't wait 3 years or 30 years to give punishment. It's quick. Because it's well known, if you steal, don't steal, because if you do, we're going to cut your hand off. And then they do it. Whereas in some countries, like here in America, there is so much sentiment about abuse and being cruel to criminals, and it's nice that people we're talking about being good-hearted, but unfortunately, this material world is such a place that painful things have to be done. It's just we wish we didn't have to, but because there are criminals in this world, there are people who are violent. They have to be dealt with in a violent way. We can't be overly sentimental. Oh, you're going to hurt them. Yes, we're going to hurt them. Unfortunately, it's necessary. We don't wake up in the morning thinking, oh, today I can cut someone's hand off. But if it's necessary, then it has to be done. At least someone has to have the ability to not just be ruled by emotions, but be ruled by both intelligence and a good heart, both. They don't cancel each other out. And so sattva guna means we have a good heart, but we're also very practical and very responsible. And although we may feel bad about it, we may need to chastise someone, we may need to punish someone, we may need to say something which we know someone's not going to like. They may be angry with us, but if we don't do it, it won't be good for them. So it's very important for leaders and managers and parents to be able to do this, to be able to act objectively. That if I don't do this, my child or my husband or my wife or my friend will suffer, or they'll cause suffering to others. And so I must say something, even though it's bitter. Or I must take some action which they're not going to like, and I may get a lot of unpleasant words, but I must do it. Not overly sentimental, but not cruel either. But it's very important to, obviously, to understand this. We're not being offensive to Krishna. We're not being sinful. If sometimes we have a stiff hand or a stiff mind when we deal with others. It's like suppose there's someone living in a devotional community and they keep stealing. And you go to them and you say, I know you're stealing. You can't be doing it. Whether you're chanting the names of God or not, if you don't stop, I'm going to have to call the police. Well, you're being offensive. No, I'm not. You're being offensive. That's right. Of course, we want to deal with it as with as little pain and upset as possible, but if that can't be avoided, then so then Srila Prabhupada points out that obviously if there's strict discipline, then other people will think twice about, just like in a house, if one of the children get disciplined, hopefully the other children will also think about it. Oh, I'm not going to do that. They got grounded for 3 weeks. Forget that. I'm not going to do it because my parents they don't just talk. They don't just say things. They actually do it. And so when the administrators of a town or a state or country are strict in a good way, then it's a good thing. And then the other side of it, Srila Prabhupada points out, is that there should be always encouragement to develop good character. Because if your family, if your neighborhood, if your business, if people around us have good character, there won't be as many problems. This is an important thing to keep in mind. We can keep saying to someone, don't do this, don't do that, you should do this, you should do that. But if we can help them to develop character, then they can make those decisions themselves or more often. You want to get lazy employees working more? Find a way to get them to follow some kind of spiritual lifestyle, even if they don't know it's a spiritual lifestyle. You can trick them. Say, oh, you want to do good here at work? You want to advance? Get up before sunrise. Take a bath. Don't just sleep and sleep. And avoid animal food. So whatever we can do to help people follow the spiritual sadhana, to come to the mode of goodness. See, the more people are in the mode of goodness, and they'll be able to understand things automatically. We can't go up to a giraffe or a leopard and try and teach them about religious principles. They just can't. They're just not able to understand. There are humans who are almost like that. Well, I can't convince them. No, you can't convince them because their lifestyle doesn't allow them the ability. It doesn't give them the clear head to understand. It doesn't give them the right kind of heart to appreciate it. It can be it's a good thing to remember that people have to be living a certain kind of lifestyle, which will help them to understand Krishna consciousness. So it's a duty of the leaders, the parents, mayors, the governors, the prime ministers, everyone, to encourage everyone to follow sadhana. Be a devotee. Any discussions or comments or questions?
Hare Krishna, thank you very much, Prabhuji. I really like this idea of maybe we might not be able to convert everybody into Krishna consciousness at one go, but just telling them small things, don't eat animal products and things like that. Maybe that is a good way to start. So thank you very much for that comment.
I did think completely about that point about certain countries which are devoted to some scripture. Unfortunately, most scriptures are contaminated with a good amount of ignorance and passion. And therefore, they get a little crazy sometimes because it's not as much in the mode of goodness as it could be. But the principle is there, though, of living according to the scripture and being devoted to it. Very serious. It could be a very good thing if you have the Bhagavad Gita to follow.
Yes, Prabhuji, and especially the as it is, because there's so many versions of Bhagavad Gita, and maybe the best one to follow is Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita as it is.
I think I missed a question.
So you said Bhagavad Gita, we should follow the Bhagavad Gita, and I was wondering whether it should be the as it is Bhagavad Gita.
As it, yeah, as
the others might not have similar messages in spite of it being Bhagavad Gita.
Any other discussion or comments?
I think there are no more questions or comments. We can close the session for today because we have overrun on our time. Are you going?
I was going to say that as Gandhi said, Mahatma Gandhi, be the change that you want to see. It's sometimes the best thing. Well, how can I help society? How can I really wish my parents, my friends could appreciate. Focus on being as good of a devotee, a real devotee that we can. And I've seen it with other devotees, even with myself a little bit, that people notice, oh, you work so responsibly, we can depend on you. What do you do? So, well, I think it's my spiritual path that helps me. Oh, so they may ask, well, what is that?
Yes, Prabhuji, kindly continue. Sorry for the disturbance. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, kindly continue. There was a disturbance from one of the participants.
Was there a question or are we closing? I didn't hear it.
We are closing now. Arya Govind Prabhu, kindly close the session.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much, Prabhu. I was just wondering, actually, Prabhupada mentioned in one of his lectures that capital punishment sometimes capital punishment is good for the soul, because he would not suffer in the hellish condition, because earlier kings used to give capital punishment as a prayashchitta, that means to overcome the effect of sinful reaction, so that he can suffer less. Is that the correct understanding, Prabhu?
Yes, yes. And us too, me, all of us, something that we can remember, that when there's some kind of physical pain or emotional pain, we're burning off our minimized sins too. So it's a positive thing. I'll have less sins to log my progress.
Thank you, Prabhuji, for that answer. I request all the devotees to unmute and then chant Hare Krishna Mahamantra once for glorification of His Grace Dina Sharan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Rama
Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakapataribhyascha kripa sindhubhyo
पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः।
namaha.
Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
जय
His Grace Dina Sharan Prabhu ki.
जय।
Thank you very much for having me in your company. I feel so benefited by all of you. And I hope Krishna is kind to me and I do the right thing so I can stay near you, all of you.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Everyone be well. Take care.
Thank you,
Thank
Prabhuji.
you.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
See you next week. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Arya Govind Prabhu, it's you tomorrow.